let's go back to C major. And let's just put a scale on the screen here. Okay, note that I got rid of that key signature for G major that we were just looking at. We're back to C major. So that's all correct, C major scale. Now, for a diatonic chord progression, what we're going to need to do is we're going to figure out every possible chord that can be assembled with this group of 7 different notes. Okay, how can we arrange these in a first, third, fifth pattern in a way that makes 7 different chords, right? Because we can build a chord with each one of these notes being the root note, right? Any one of these notes can be a root. We've only looked at that one. And what we did is we took every other note. So let's do this. Let me zoom out just a hair so we can see what we're doing. Okay. So let's put our first one here. We know this one. Okay. A major chord built on the first, the third, and the fifth, every other note. Now let's just throw a big wrinkle in here and put a D there. Okay. So I put the second note. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a chord off that using the same process of every other note. That's going to be this note, and that note, right? In this case, it's the scale degree 2, scale degree 4, and scale degree 6. But if we treat D as the root, then it's root, third, fifth. So let's put that here. D, it's going to be F as the second one. I'm going to skip G. I'm going to put an A. Okay, let's keep going. So, well, wait, before we keep going, let me explain that a little bit more. In this chord, this is a chord with C as the root. This is a chord with D as the root in the key of C major. So let's parse that a little bit more. What this is going to end up with is not a major chord. This is a minor chord. So hold on to that for just a second. I'm going to talk about major and minor chords in a second, but let's just finish building out all our possible chords. So right now we have a chord with the root of C, a chord with the root of D. Let's go to E. So E, I'm going to skip F and use G, because we always use every other note when we're doing this. There's G, I'm going to skip A, I'm going to put B. Okay, let's go to the next note, F. So here's F. I'm going to skip G, I'm going to put an A. I'm going to skip B, I'm going to put a C. Okay, let's keep going. After F comes G. Here's G, I'm going to skip A, I'm going to put a B. I'm going to skip, so I'm on B, I'm going to skip C, and then I have to circle around again. Here's C that I just skipped, right, because I was on B, and now I'm going to put a D, but I'm going to put it an octave higher, right? So I just cycled around again, or we could rewrite the scale to go up another octave, and that would help. G, let's go to A. So here's A. I'm going to skip B, and I'm going to put a C. And then I'm going to jump down to the bottom again. Here's C that I just used. I'm going to skip D. I'm going to put an E. Okay, up next is B. It's right here. I'm going to skip C, that one. And I'm going to put a D. And then I'm going to skip E, and I'm going to put an F. Okay, now that's all 7, right? That's 7 chords. A root on C, a root on D, a root on E, a root on F, a root on G, a root on A, and a root on B. Let's do one more just for the heck of it. So we go all the way up to C. So let's call that this C. I'm going to skip D, and I'm going to put an E. Ooh, I keep jumping forward here. I'm going to skip F, and I'm going to put a G. Now, if everything lined up right, this last chord, because it's also a root on C, and that's a root on C, these should be the same notes. C, E, and G, C, E, and G. So if you did everything right, this last chord and this first chord will be the same notes but an octave apart. So that is all the possible chords in the key of C major. And we call this the diatonic chord progression. Remember, diatonic means in a key. So this is all the chords in the key. Let's just hear it, because it's kind of fun to listen to. I'll start on the C major scale. Neat, right? Another way you can figure this out is you could just write a C major scale going up and then start on E, but write a C major scale from E to E on top of the C. So E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. And then do the same thing starting on G. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So it's basically three scales, or one scale, but starting on three different notes, and then going up, and it gives you the same result. Anyway, okay, now we need to figure out what kinds of chords these are, because I have a variety of major and minor chords here, and then one just kind of weird one. So this is when patterns come into play again. Now, a while ago, when we talked about the relationships of half steps and whole steps, when we were figuring out the scale over here, I said the whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step pattern was something that you had to memorize and engrave in your head. And I also think I said that I'm not going to ask you to memorize a lot of stuff, but that is one of the things that I'm going to ask you to memorize. And this is the other. This is worth memorizing. And that is, what is the quality of each of these chords? Now, the quality is another way to say, is it major or minor or one of the other ones? Because this always falls into a pattern also. If we're in a major key, this first one built on C, built on the key we're in, right? The scale we use to make all of this is going to be a major chord. Okay, so this is C major. The second one is going to be a minor chord. So this is D minor. The third one is also going to be a minor chord. So this is E minor. The fourth one is going to be a major chord. So this is F major. The fifth one is going to be a major chord. So this is G major. The sixth one is going to be minor. So this is A minor. The seventh one is just the weird one. This is what's called a diminished chord. It's kind of, you can think of a diminished chord as kind of like a super minor chord. It's kind of ugly. This is going to be B diminished. And then we're back to major. So this is C major. So the pattern to remember is major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major. Okay? That is a pattern worth remembering because it always works. If you're in a major key and you take your major scale and you write it out in thirds in the way we did here, so every note has a third and a fifth above it, then you get a series of chords where the first one's going to be major, the second one's going to be minor, the third one's going to be minor, the fourth one's going to be major, the fifth one's going to be major, the sixth one's going to be minor, and the seventh one's going to be diminished. And then a major again if you decide to write the octave chord on there. So that is the diatonic chord progression. It's that pattern of major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major. See, I get good at saying it because I think about it every day. It's a very common pattern. It's important to memorize, and you should know it. Before we leave this, one thing to point out here. What this has shown us is all the possible chords in this key. So let's say you're a songwriter and you're writing a song, and you're playing a C chord, you're playing a chord progression on your guitar, and you're playing something like C, G, and A minor, right? That all works in C major, right? A C major chord, a G major chord, and an A minor chord. Those are all in the key. They're all going to sound good together. But you're like, what else could I do? I want to add a new chord for the bridge. I want to do something different in the bridge of the song. You can look at this and you can say, well, here are my possible options that are in the key. There's always more options if you want to go outside the key. But in the key, consider E minor. E minor is totally in key. It's going to work. It's going to sound good. Consider D minor. It's in the key. It's going to sound good. Consider F. I wouldn't consider B diminished because B diminished doesn't particularly sound very good, especially on a guitar. But you could try B minor as a substitute for that one. Also, probably not going to sound great. But these other chords, this kind of gives you a roadmap. Like, what else could I do? I'm using these chords. Everything's in C major. What else could I do? You could do D minor. You could do E minor. You could do F major. It shows you all your options, by laying this out. So that's why it's really useful for songwriters. Now, for music theory, it's useful because it tells us the quality of all the chords. It also can help us figure out what key we're in if we don't know. And in some cases, we don't know. So enough on that for now. Be sure you understand this. This is super crucial information. Next, I want to talk about inversions. This is the thing we talked about a second ago where we had a case where there's a weird gap here and it doesn't look like a chord built on thirds, but it actually is. So let's jump over to a new video and talk about inversions.